the way, Issa, you heard those comments, right?
Yeah, and
he's coming out. He's coming out.
And then you're listening to a grade A fool. Is what you're listening to.
That's what
anybody who says the most corrupt administration in history doesn't put down a single piece of evidence. I know, Issa. I've been on a panel with him before. The guy shoots his mouth off. If he's going to shoot his mouth off like that and say then let's put one piece of evidence on the table. Wait a second.
He's holding the gun this time.
If you want to go into the tank for the guy, go ahead. But I'm not going to go in the tank for him because what he's doing here is playing politics. Look, we gave out in the stimulus package, there's not been one example of corruption, whereas in the Bush administration, Halliburton ripped off hundreds of billions of dollars. Did you say anything about that?
Well, hold on.
Did
Get you guys in 1 second. But the difference is this time he's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. That's a big job.
That's a big job.
That's a lot of bullets in that gun.
He's got a subpoena. He's got subpoena power. Use it. Why? Because he wants to run for senator in California. Let me tell you something, Daryl. You ain't got a chance.
Okay, you know what, Bob? I agree with you on one thing. Corruption's a very big word to throw around. If you don't have evidence to show facts, you shouldn't use the word. Like I said many times about the top money, that saved the $200 billion, $200 billion, saved a lot of the community banks, gave small business loans, lines of credit. They were able to keep these banks open. Corruption's a very harsh word, and before you throw it around, you better have some evidence to that.
See, I'm not so sure he was saying TARP was corrupt. I think he may have been saying we're going to look for corruption.
I'm
going to be the lawyer, and you're not going to like this, but I'm actually going to agree with these guys, especially the detective.
I'm not the liberal guy.
Especially the detective. You better be careful when you're on a huge national Sunday talk show saying that this is the most corrupt. You look at the Clinton administration and all the craziness that went on there, even things that Richard Nixon's administration.
Don't put yourself in with this guy. Really, you're much better than that. Don't go to this.
Bob Beckel, Daryl Issa, where are you, my friend? I hope you expose so much corruption because we want to know about it. We want to tie up the loose ends. Hold on. Joining us now.
What's your first piece of evidence?
Kurt Bardella, press secretary for Congressman Daryl Issa. Thank you very much, Kurt, for listening to this, sitting through this. But here I am. I'm saying Daryl Issa, the man you work for, is on the right path. He's out there hunting corruption. Good for him. I think all our viewers are going to say exactly the same thing. Sir, go ahead.
Practice of institutionalizing, handing out money, walking around money to let the administration do whatever they want to do with it. And, you have to remember, when TARP was brought and sold to Congress, it was sold under a completely different premise of what it ended up being used for. And all you need to know that it's had an institutionalized corruptive practice on the government is that we've had $125 billion of improper payments that the OMB said was put out there, $15 billion more than last year. At what point are the taxpayers going to say enough is enough? Well, they said that message in November, Bob, and at the end of the day,
they did?
We cannot continue this ridiculous
Can you give me one piece of evidence? Just give me one piece of evidence to stop this.
Because all that happens.
You sound like Joe McCarthy. Can we have one piece of information? One piece of evidence. Give me one.
One piece of evidence?
One.
It's a fact. TARP was sold for one reason. They ended up doing completely different things. But
no
Chairman
evidence yet.
Hold on.
They came to the Congress, said, give us $700 billion, we're going to buy up toxic assets. That's what we're going to use it for. Well, a little bit later on, all of a sudden, they come to Congress and say, you know what? I know we told you we were going to do it this way. We're not going to do it that way at all. Sorry.
Hang in there, guys. Hold on, Bob, and the rest of the panel. I want you to hang in there. But Daryl Issa is taking over in 2 days. He hasn't even really had the bullets in the gun to go after some of this corruption.
But he calls it the most corrupt administration.
Am I wrong, Kurt? Go ahead.
It is a corruptive process to hand out taxpayer dollars under one justification and use it for something completely different. Good, bad, or indifferent, we can debate whether it's the right move or the wrong move at a different time.
Kurt, your boss said the most corrupt administration. That is a lot different than saying it's corruptive. He called it the most corrupt administration.
If you listen to the whole interview, Bob, he actually says it's the corruptive process.
Okay. He said it was the most. You just said it.
It's not just the 6 lines that you're highlighting.
I'm not from California. I speak English.
Hey, Kurt, it's Bo Dietl. How you doing, buddy? Listen to me. I'm a former detective, right? You have to understand when you use a word that it's corrupt, you really have to have some evidence on it. The other side of the coin is that some of that top money with those community banks really did do a good job. It saved a lot of community banks. As far as the other monies go, I don't know, but you better select before you use that word that this is a corrupt. You know what corruption is? What Clinton did with Mark Rich when he pardoned him. That was corruption. That's what we should have jumped on down.
Okay, go back and defend him. Go ahead.
Hold on, guys. Stop.
Now we've got him in the corner.
Do me a favor. We can argue whether or not TARP was corrupt or if there's waste, fraud, and abuse in just about every government program. You can go down the list. Kurt, let us know who's Darrell Issa going to go after first. Is it Maxine Waters? Does he have someone else?
It's not about going after individual lawmakers. The enemy ultimately isn't Republicans or Democrats. It's a bureaucracy that oftentimes outlasts any one political party in power. And we saw that the best example of that, and really one of the worst moments for the government, was MMS. The problems of MMS began long before the Bush administration, during the Bush administration, and after it. But it took oil gushing into the Gulf of Mexico for anyone to take notice that this entity, the Minerals Management Service, wasn't doing their job.
Kurt,
it should not take a
can I just say one thing? I've met Issa before. I meant to say he was foolish. I didn't mean to call him a fool, by the way, so I apologize if that came across that way. I actually happen to like the guy, believe it or not. But having said that,
boy, did you pancake fast?
Yeah, I would say House of Cards.
By the way, Kurt,
I correct myself.
By the way, Kurt, when he realized you were on, I got to tell you, the moonwalk, the Michael Jackson moonwalk.
Hey, you talk about a moonwalk. You walk so far right every time you don't know where left is anymore. Now look, let me just say this: if you're going to say these things, though. And because Issa, I don't remember Issa, or maybe I was wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, did he ever raise Halliburton's ripoff of the United States government in Iraq? Did he ever raise that?
Our committee had hearings on this, actually.
And did he come up with the corruption that they were?
Hearings on this at the time.
Did he come up with the corruption that was there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Did he come up with the corruption of Halliburton and Dick Cheney's people?
The committee, that was what the committee hearing was about.
Did they come up with some?
That's for you guys to decide whether they come up with anything or not. I'm not going to be the arbiter of that.
Kurt Bardella, tell us what every one of our audience members wants to know right now. How in the world did Maxine Waters get a pass at the end of the 111th Congress, and will she get a pass in the 112th Congress under Darrell Issa's oversight?
I think what you're seeing is, and this is true, I think, on both sides of the aisle, a disillusionment in the American people with the government that they have, and this belief that lawmakers are held to a lower standard and not the highest possible standard, and that's something that needs to change. That's something that the incoming Republican majority said that they would change. But I think everyone can agree up until the campaign point, there were a lot of things that were said. The president referred to Republicans as those who would have to wait in line and sit in the back of the bus. Certainly, he's struck a much more conciliatory tone now as well. So, at the end of the day, the job that Congressman Issa does as chairman, the waste, fraud, abuse that he wants to pursue in the bureaucracy, that will ultimately speak for itself. And he's laid out an agenda, looking at things like Fannie and Freddie, the underpinnings of the financial crisis, corruption in Afghanistan.
Hang on, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kurt, I like where you guys are going. You guys got to go there. You got to be very selective. When you get 500 African-American farmers and all of a sudden it turns into 50,000 in a couple of years, these are issues that you guys have some real validity to go look into. I respect you guys for what you're trying to do.
One quick point. Go ahead. Sorry.
Kurt, first of all, you should be complimented because you did a great job defending your boss.
No, he didn't.
I think he did. And he was very passionate. But your boss is being elevated to a position of an even higher power. And as an attorney, I can tell you words have consequences. So before someone at that level makes such a sweeping charge, he just has to have his ducks in order before he reaches such a conclusion.
Kurt, you might want to inform the host of this show that Maxine Waters is in the Congress. It has nothing to do with an administration, number one. Number two, you better be very careful.
What's that got to do with it? Yeah, he can still call for an investigation.
No, because you started off with Darrell Issa making the foolish statement that there was corruption in this administration.
So let's expand
and of course you couldn't
Robert.
find any, and so you went over to Maxine Waters, which is a typical move on your part when you don't have any evidence. And I will say this: let's have some evidence, and then we'll listen to you. And I wish you luck. Say hello to Darrell for me. Tell him I still think he's being foolish to make those kinds of statements. Right. He's a bigger man than that.
Last word, Kurt. Give you the last word.
Listen, again, at the end of the day, the body of work of oversight that Congressman Issa will produce, the chairman of this committee, will speak for itself, and we can all move beyond the rhetoric. We look forward to that. We look forward to Bob going on TV and admitting that some of the things that we're going after are worthwhile.
Kurt Bardella, we're going to say thank you. Hopefully we'll have you back, and the congressman as well, have you back. This is, after all, the corruption show, so it'd be perfect for us, for both of us. All right, thank you very much.